Hello, fairy tale things, or should I say my evil minions, because today we're going to be talking all toys Megamind, the cult classic animated superhero film from our beloved Dreamworks animation. And yes, I am recovering from a pretty nasty cold, so if I sound a little different, that's why. But I have been able to get a almost complete set of the mini Megamind figures, and also I rewatched Megamind while I was sick. It's a film I often revisit because I think it is a phenomenal film. As an adult, I have really come to appreciate and love this movie. Dare I say, out of all of the DreamWorks movies that aren't Shrek, this is the most Shrek adjacent movie. Check out this DVD here, by the way. This is actually the United Kingdom version. At least I think it is. If not, it's from somewhere that isn't the US because it's blue, unlike the one we got in the USA. And I just think that's neat. But Megamind is an amazing film. I love its themes of subversiveness and destiny. The fact that you choose your own destiny. It isn't decided for you. Megamind was born in a prison. Does that mean he's destined to become a criminal? No, of course it doesn't. He can choose his own path. Even Metro Man, he was given the most amazing powers in the world, but he just wants to play music. Can't he just become a musician? Of course he can. And me, I want to collect Megamind toys. Will my destiny allow me to do that? Maybe if I become rich enough, because Megamind toys, let me tell you, are, oh boy, they are some of the most difficult cartoon and DreamWorks toys to ever obtain. I may not have money, but at least I have Megamind toys. Wow, these toys are difficult to get. I've talked about many rare DreamWorks figures before. I even opened up a pretty rare Monsters vs. Aliens figure a while back, but no, peanuts compared to this. Megamind is by far the toughest DreamWorks movie to collect for ever. I will just say that. I've been watching these mini figures now for a few years. I lost a couple of eBay lots on them. I even saw one lot of these figures go north of $700. Can you believe that? And these were loose. These were not in the packaging. So a word of caution before we proceed. If you want Megamind toys, it is gonna be tough, but never lose patience because it was late at night, I was browsing eBay, and a perfect lot appeared. It will happen, it just takes time. So today we're gonna be talking about all of the toys, the Happy Meals, the minis, the action figures, everything. So despite being a superhero blockbuster, Megamind did not have a super-sized toy line. There was very little to collect. If you look up Megamind on eBay, you'll see what I mean. You pretty much just get the Happy Meal toys, which is such a shame. It did have toys from a company called ToyQuest. They were given the Megamind license, and they did make a lot of toys. It's just finding them that's trouble. And if that name sounds a little familiar, ToyQuest did also make the toys the previous year for DreamWorks Monsters vs. Aliens, another rare classic DreamWorks toy line, but not quite as difficult to find as the Megamind figures. And if you'd believe it or not, I actually have memories of seeing this entire toy line on the shelf back in the day. It was pretty much all exclusive to Toys R Us, but they dedicated a whole shelf space to it, and I remember the 6-inch figures, the 3-inch figures, Titan in particular. He stuck around until like 2014, those were still on the shelf. Who would have ever thought that these toys would become as valuable as they were? Forget Apple stock. If I could go back in time, I'm just going to buy a bunch of Megamind toys. I'll be able to retire for the rest of my life. But today we're going to answer the question, are the Megamind toys worth the hype? So let's flip the camera around and let's look at some of these incredibly awesome but also rare superhero toys. Okay, so we're going to start off with the McDonald's Megamind toys, since these were the ones I know a lot of you did have. Definitely the most common ones. And they're really good figures. Check out Megamind here in his mech. This is a nice Happy Meal toy because the detail on that mech suit is really amazing. I think this is actually called the Walking Destruction Bot is the full name for it, but we're just going to call it the mech in this video for simplicity's sake. And it's its own full piece with articulation, and there's a little Megamind in the mech, and you can see the sculpt on that is stylized, but in a good way. It looks just like the character, and if you turn around the back, where again we have more of that detail. It's a little hollow in the back, but again, enough detail where it's still pretty good for a kid's meal toy. You can press this button here, and Megamind, he launches out the front, and we can take the figure out and play with it. So you kind of get two toys in one with this guy, Megamind and the mech suit. So that is a really nice figure. Now, Megamind is going to need to fight against his arch nemesis, that Dawn Metro Man. And again, we got a nice figure of Metro Man. This is basically a full action figure included as a kid's meal toy. Articulation's not great, you know, the legs are one piece, but the head does swivel, and then the hands move, and then he's also got this button on his back that when you swing it, he throws punches, so he can battle Megamind. But, of course, they're not quite to scale now, are they? No, they are not. Megamind is, he's a little too, small for Metro Man here. Actually, Megamind does scale perfectly, not with Metro Man, but with the very similar Monsters vs. Aliens toys from McDonald's the year previously. Megamind can dish out battle here with Insectosaurus and the giant alien robot, one of my all-time favorite Happy Meal toys. Actually, I would say that the Monsters vs. Aliens McDonald's line was the height of Dreamworks Kids Meal toys being amazing. I mean, that line is just so amazing. And with Megamind here, what you'll notice as the video goes on is that the toys definitely start to decline. I think this was the first sign that the golden age of Dreamworks was coming to a close. And you'll notice that with how uncompatible the toys are. So what I mean with that is, with Monsters vs. Aliens, they were all action figures that you could play with. In a way, the McDonald's Monsters vs. Aliens line was the regular action figure line for Monsters vs. Aliens. You know, because Lord knows you weren't going to get the ToyQuest figures. Those things were so rare. And Megamind should have been in a similar spot where, you know, the toys are rare, but thankfully the Happy Meal makes up for that. And with the case of Megamind himself, he does get this nice figure, as does Metro Man, not to scale, but still a decent figure. But after that is where things fall apart. Because if you thought scale was bad for these two, just wait till you see, the reveal of Titan. We're just going to pry him out there. Titan is very tiny. He almost scales with the walking robot suit. Yeah, he's so tiny, he doesn't scale with any of them. But you do get the copper ball from the movie, so that's fun. So I won't hold the scale thing too against Titan here because he comes with a cool prop. But one unforgivable figure is Minion. Oh no, look at this. Yeah, this is not a great toy. For one, the sculpt doesn't really look like Minion. Something about that fish head looks creepy. It doesn't have the warm, friendly smile that Minion has. This looks really unsettling. And he's a top, and that's all he is. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I don't like tops. I never cared for Beyblade. I don't understand the fun of tops. Beyblade. Let it whip. And this guy doesn't even come with a whipcord. You're just supposed to, like, scratch him against the surface and then let him spin. But he doesn't even do that too well. And I just don't know what you do with this toy. He doesn't stand up. He doesn't display well. It's just kind of a thing. And you see what I mean? How the toys start off great and then they just kind of fall apart. And the last toys in this line are truly the most disposable and terrible of them all. And that is Megamind's Brain Bots. Of all the things in Megamind, I have just never been a fan of the BrainBot designs. I thought they looked kind of generic. They look like they would be more at home in, like, Phineas and Ferb, like something Dr. Doofenshmirtz would invent for an episode, rather than all big bad Megamind here. They're just not very menacing and evil looking. And McDonald's actually made 4 of these guys in the line, and I've only bothered to put 2 in my collection. One thing that really ruins these toys, and I mean actually ruins them, is the battery corrosion. This one here is leaking acid. And if you go back and watch the YouTube short where I unboxed this toy, there was actually acid in the bag, I believe. A lot of these guys are really gross and have become really acidic over the years. They started to melt inside, which is really unfortunate. And none of the electronic components in these guys work anymore. So this one here, this is the brain bot. I think it's called the dog. Was supposed to talk. He doesn't talk anymore, so he's just kind of a posable figure. And then this one would have projected a Megamind logo on the wall, but he also doesn't do that. Some of these are not battery operated. There's one that looks like this where you're supposed to shout into it and it distorts your voice. If you have to have a brain bot for your collection, get that one because it doesn't have batteries in it. It's not going to leak potential dangerous acid onto your collection. But for the most part, I would say steer clear of the brain bots. They're not very fun or interesting to look at. I have no reason to collect all of these. Stick to the main characters, but even then, you're only really going to get 2 out of 4 fun figures. Now, this is the United States toy line, and the toy line did vary depending on region. Some areas actually got an extra figure worth displaying in your collection with Roxanne on her scooter. This is a really rare toy, but if you can get her, definitely add her to your Megamind set because she adds another interesting character to the lineup. And then if you were very unfortunate, you would have been subjected to this terrible toy line. Yes, some places only got the brain bots. They actually got an expanded selection of exclusive brain bots and none of the Megamind characters. Look how unfun these toys are. I wouldn't wish these toys on any kid. They look simply miserable. And if that wasn't enough, Megamind actually got a second kids meal here in the United States when the DVD and Blu-ray came out at Carl's Jr., also known as Hardee's in some US states. This was common. Often a big company like McDonald's or Burger King got the initial Happy Meal, and then Carl's Jr. had this deal where they always got the second chance at the Dreamworks lines when the film came out on home media, and this is the second Megamind toy line. These are exceedingly difficult toys to get. This is where the beginning of the impossible Megamind toys begin. I've never seen most of these toys in person or online at all. There's the gloriously bad band, which is a wristband. There's the superhero checker game, which is just paper checkers. Then there's the hero meter. This one is at least plastic. And finally, we have the Your Dreams Come True bobblehead. I love that title, Your Dreams Come True. What is with that name? Well, my personal headcanon is that Megamind himself gave these out when he became leader of the city, effectively, when he killed Metro Man and had a little bit of a PR problem and everyone hated him. So this is the Megamind Carl's Jr. bobblehead. It's very rare, and I've held on to this for years because it was the only Megamind toy I had, and I was scared to open it because I couldn't find any photos online, and I was convinced this was some sort of lost media, like I was going to solve a big mystery. Now, eventually, full-color photos of these toys were uploaded online so we can see what they look like, but I also found this gentleman, Greg Leibort, hopefully I'm saying his name correctly, a very talented toy designer whose portfolio online contains prototype images of the Megamind Carl's Jr. toys. Check out the hero meter back when it was an evil meter, and here are some unused concepts. It's a shame we didn't get that minion toy inside of the ball. I think that would have been neat. But yeah, I'll link his portfolio in the description. There's a lot of cool stuff in there. It's been a few years. I've seen a couple of these bobbleheads come and go on eBay. They're not expensive, they're just rare. So today, for all of you guys, I will open the Megamind bobblehead. Are you ready? We're gonna open up this vintage rare toy right on camera. 3, 2, let's say bad, blue, brilliant. Here we go. Wow, there he is. So this is clearly where all of the budget in this kids' meal toy line went. Carl's Jr. was often like this, where you would get one nice toy and then 3 like paper toys, and this seems to follow that rule. The sculpt on this Megamind is actually a lot better than what McDonald was able to put together. Of course, you're not going to get the full mech suit or articulation. It's just a little bobblehead here, but it's a nice figure. I love the head sculpt. His giant blue head is a shaken. Lots of detail on the uniform. Actually, this is nice, and I will put this on my desk after this video, because I love Megamind, and I think this is great. Honestly, better than a pop vinyl. Like, this just captures the character well. And again, it looks like an in-universe item. Like, this is something Megamind would make of himself. Because he was very into himself. You know, it's the one thing that Titan couldn't remember, and that's presentation. Presentation is everything when you're trying to be the big bad. Look at that. Wow. Okay, so in terms of kids' meals, Megamind was a step down from all of Dreamworks' previous efforts. Most of the toys do not match. A lot of them have batteries in them that have melted over the years and are not even worth picking up, and many are just dumb. But I would say if you had to pick any, get Megamind and Metro Man from McDonald's, because they're going to be the cheapest way to get figures of those characters, and also this bobblehead, because I think it's very fun. Alright, so now we're going to talk about the actual figures released for Megamind. Okay, so Megamind had two different lines of figures, the small 3-inch figures that came in 2 packs, and the larger 6 to 7-inch scale line that were the deluxe figures, quote-unquote. So we're going to start off with the deluxe minion here, because this is the only one of the larger figures I have, but it gives us a good idea of what these are like, and that is absolutely amazing sculpting and detail on these guys. You really only get, what, a swivel at the hand, and then, I'm sorry, the arm, not the hand. Hands don't move. Just the arms and just the legs. So that's it. 4 whole points of articulation. He doesn't even have a rotation joint at the waist here. There's a lot of missed opportunities for articulation with this guy. And he's very pre-posed. He's supposed to be holding the DNA extractor gun they try to use on Titan. Actually, this figure was called DNA Extractor Minion, and he would have held that gun. I found this guy at a toy show for $5. I was so happy when I found him. And I dug in that figure bin for like 20 minutes looking for that extractor gun, but it wasn't there. But still, I am happy to have him in the collection because these 6-inch figures are so tough to get. But if you can find them, yeah, I would say they're worth it. The detail's amazing. Like a lot of 2000s figures, you know, you don't get the modern articulation, but you do get the sculpting and the detail. Now, for the 6-inch figure line, of course, we had our main titular Megamind. That figure was called Energy Ray Megamind, and he also came with a big accessory like Minion here was supposed to. And again, not a lot of articulation, very pre-posed with his hands, just kind of like this, but still a very nice figure. And we got Metro Man with Power Punch Metro Man. And what's interesting about this figure is they made Metro Man look so angry. It's almost way off character for him, but it makes more sense when you consider that the play pattern for these toys was from Megamind's perspective. Kids were supposed to play as Megamind. So if Megamind's who you're playing as, then who's the villain? Well, from Megamind's point of view, Metro Man is the villain. So that's why I think Metro Man was sculpted like that. And then finally, we have our actual villain, Titan, with supercharged Titan. He comes with a giant safe. He smashes. I love the sculpt on this figure because it's so goofy and exaggerated. It's nuts, and I love it. And finally, as a note to inbox collectors, well, don't be, because these are always off of the card. Seriously, the bubbles, do not stay on these. Do not try to collect these carded. It will not go well for you. Those are the 6-inch figures, but I do happen to have almost all of the smaller 3-inch figures. And this is really what I was excited to show you guys. So we're going to start off with the most interesting one of the bunch, and that would be the pod with super babies. Look, it's a little baby Metro Man. So we have a very detailed sculpt of the pod that crash lands here. And we have a baby Metro Man with actual articulation in his little baby body. That is really impressive. They put articulation there. And honestly, a pretty good paint sculpt for a figure this tiny. And then also a little baby Megamind. Look at baby Megamind. That, wow, he's given that baby Joey aura right there. But these are so goofy. I love them so much. And these are actually some of the tougher ones to get in the Megamind line. And you'll notice they don't quite scale with the regular 3-inch line. Actually, these ones are to scale with the 6-inch line. So, if anything, let's see if we can get Megamind in Minion's arm here. Minion, can you become a father and raise Megamind. Yeah, he can. Look, there's Megamind with his Dada, and then little Metro Man can terrorize him. But this is a toy company really thinking outside the box. I love it when companies do stuff like this. They knew they had a 6-inch line and a 3-inch line, and what they did is they took two characters that obviously are not the 6 to 7-inch scale, but they put them in the 3-inch line. So technically, these figures are part of the deluxe figure assortment, even though they were incorporated into the value budget line. I wish more companies would do that. The only modern example I can think of is Jack Sonic, who does take a lot of the smaller characters and actually put them into the value priced line. But yeah, these are great. These are phenomenal figures. Look at the detail they were able to get in figures that are smaller than a $50 coin. It's really amazing, and they all have articulation that's honestly very fragile. If you ever get these guys, be careful with the joints because they do feel like the arms and legs are going to snap. And what's great is, again, they fit in that pod. So I like to display Metro Man in the pod here so he can go in like that. And then Megamind is too adorable. He's got to be displayed outside the pod. But these are definitely my favorite underrated Megamind toys because they're just so weird, and I'm so happy they exist. They're just adorable little space babies. Now, often with these 3-inch figures, you get something that is decidedly value, like this donkey here, released for Shrek 2. You'll notice this figure is not too great. If you look at the paint sculpt here, it is decidedly budget and value as expected. But with Megamind here, absolutely nothing was lost in the translation from large scale to small scale. Honestly, in some ways, the small scale minion is better than the full-size minion because he's got all of the detail of the larger figure, but you'll notice he's not as pre-posed. His hands are in clenched fists, whereas the large figure has him positioned to hold the gun. And that's not all, because the small-scale minion has all the same articulation as the large-scale minion, and then some, because his arms here are actually on a ball joint as opposed to swivel. Well, is that a ball joint? You know, I never get these technical things right with action figures. I think that's a ball joint because, look, it's 360. It goes all the way around and all the way out. You have to let me know in the comments what the correct term is for a hinge like this. But the point is he has 360 degrees of movement. So you actually can get more poses out of this minion. And he is more dynamic and interesting than the pre-posed one. Granted, the large one may look better if I actually had the gun he could hold, but I really like the little guy. Another thing you may notice on the camera is that the smaller minion uses shinier paint for the silver, so he actually pops a lot more. It's a neat detail. Can't help but wonder why the smaller minion is the better figure, but if you want to collect Megamind, then the smaller scale is the way to go, because they're just such nice toys. So there's Minion, right? There's the baby pod. Now, Megamind himself has a fantastic figure. The head sculpt is really good. It's on a ball joint. That's an actual ball joint. I know that for sure. And then he's got two swivel arms here. His hands are in this awkward position where they should be facing forward. I don't know why they're facing back like this. It's almost like they had a more articulated prototype and they twisted the joint wrong when they finalized the sculpt. Like, that's the only reason I could guess his hands are like this. Unless he's doing an evil laugh, like, I am Megamind. Something like that. I don't know, but even with the awkward hands, they all open, so if you want him to hold a gun and kind of put a dehydration ray in his hand, you can, but he's going to be holding it down, or he's going to be holding it at a side angle, like some sort of gangster, but Megamind is gangster, who am I kidding? So maybe he would hold a gun like that. He's pretty cool. Although, speaking of the dehydration gun, they actually thought to sculpt it in a little holster here on his thigh. That's such a nice detail. Even the handle is painted a light shade of black. That is impressive. Overall, the detail on this figure, for what is essentially a toy the size of a cake topper, is amazing. It's really amazing. I love the proportions are all lanky. You know, you'd think they would make it a little thicker because the figure is so small and so fragile, but no, they kept him with his skinny proportions. And again, a word of caution, these toys feel fragile, like they aren't quite durable. I imagine quite a few of these went under rough play and fell apart, which may be another reason why these are so difficult to get. I mean, just to show you here how lanky this guy's proportions are, if we want to compare him to the McDonald's figure, you can really see where the stylization and the proportions are different on the Mickey D's version as opposed to the standard Megamind figure. And let's see how the premium Megamind figure looks in the Happy Meal mech suit. So there's the mech. Does that work? Oh yeah, it kind of does. He doesn't click in like the Happy Meal does. It almost looks a little bit... Wait, see if he can fit in there. Almost. You know, aesthetically, it doesn't quite look as good as the kids' meal toy, but you can have him in there if he wants to fight Metro Man out of the sky. And hey, look, it's a board, it's a plane, it's a properly scaled Metro Man, who I have on a flight stand here, because you can see that Metro Man is very, very pre-posed. Out of all the figures, this is the one that is most different from his 6-inch counterpart. With Megamind, I actually think, again, the smaller scale figure is better than the 6-inch one. I don't have the 6-inch Megamind, but you can see his hands are stuck in that pose where he's holding that control piece. Whereas this one, you know, even with his hands awkwardly turned back, is in a much more neutral pose that would make for a better figure, I think, on a shelf display. At least if you don't have the pieces, because that 6-inch Megamind without the remote is going to look really awkward, whereas this guy looks really good on his own. But Metro Man is definitely in the most awkward pose. Now, he is articulated despite the awkward posture. I don't know what you can do with these joints, but he can fly, or I guess maybe he can get thrown. He's just very, spread out, for lack of a better term. Look at that Metro Man face. It looks just like the character. Granted, he's very mean looking, but this is Metro Man ready to strike Megamind. He's got his hand out and fist loaded full of rage. And you can tell he's going to knock Megamind into next Tuesday, but that is a really nice head sculpt. Look at the little lines on his cheeks, like his teeth are clenched inside his mouth. That's seriously impressive for a figure of this scale. He's even got the eyes with the whites in his eye, like... It's impressive for a figure of this size. The emblem and the colors. You know, I didn't mention the colors yet, but they are a match for what is on screen. Metro Man's uniform is a unique blend of beige and white. It isn't stark white, but it also isn't quite as beige as the McDonald's toy has it. This one does a much better job of getting a movie-accurate Metro Man figure. Plus, the shiny M on the chest looks so nice and displayable. It really pops. Now, Metro Man does have this shiny M, which in the movie is more of a white, like the Happy Meal, but it is also supposed to be glittery and sparkly, because Metro Man's really got that 70s Elvis energy going on here. He's very fabulous as a superhero, but that glitz and glamour is not on this toy. I think making the M silver does a nice job of quickly conveying the sparkliness of his suit as he quickly flies through the air. So even if it's not the most movie-accurate detail, I think it does a better job of getting the message of the character across than this toy does. I mean, who am I kidding? Of course, a premium figure is going to look better than a McDonald's toy, but at the same time, Metro Man really highlights why the Megamind toys failed at retail. Because if you're getting this in your kids' meal, a posable action feature Metro Man figure, and then you go with your mom to Toys R Us and you see this for like, what, $6.99 I think these two packs went for, a Metro Man that only does one thing, are you going to beg your mom to spend your allowance money on this? What are you going to do with this? You already have that at home. That's why I think these toys failed. Now, Metro Man here originally came with a flight stand, which I no longer have. Thankfully, most modern action figures come with acrylic display stands that can make for a perfect flight stand for Metro Man to create a rather beautiful Megamind display. Next up, well, actually, going back to Megamind himself, he does come packaged with the BrainBot as his other figure. And yes, this is counted as an actual figure on the line, and he's so fragile, it's tough to get my camera to focus. So let's see if we can zoom in here on the little guy. Look at that. This guy is barely more than a few centimeters tall, making him one of the most difficult pieces to get in the Megamind line because everybody loses this guy. He actually has a little attachment that's supposed to go in that little hole there, but unfortunately the collection I got this from did not have those pieces. You can also see a little snap there. But I'm just happy to have this guy at all in the collection because he is so tough to get. And yeah, with his McDonald's counterpart, it is hilarious. Again, why this line failed. You know, this was part of a 2-pack, so what was the value on this guy? Like $350 in 2010 money versus this big one that comes with your chicken nuggets for free. It's understandable why the Megamind toys failed, as high quality as they are, which is a real shame. Now, we do have a couple more figures to get to here. Next up is Titan, Megamind's arch nemesis, aka Jonah Hill. And this figure really looks like Jonah Hill. I always loved how the model for Titan looks like the guy who plays him. And he doesn't stand. That's why I've now flipped the camera up, because there's no way to keep this guy up. So what I do is I position him up against my flight stand for Metro Man, and that holds him up. But yeah, even though he can't stand, it's a good figure. The detail, again, on these guys, I keep saying detail, but that's really all I could think of. I can't say articulation, because, you know, you're getting basic swivel joints here. I don't even know, like, why these leg joints, or here, why they bother. They should just made him a solid piece so he could stand. But, you know, the hands move up and down. He could throw out punches and beat up Megamind. Lord knows he does. I always loved that epic final action scene, you know. And Titan here, this is one that definitely triumphs over the sad McDonald's version. A rare instance where a kid may have actually bought this Titan figure because the McDonald's one at home is not that good. And Titan came packed with Minion. And out of all the sets, this one seems to be the most common, which tells me this was the one that sold the most because people have it loose. And yeah, this would have been the best toy to buy because you're getting two bulky figures with, in Minion's case, nice articulation and just a lot of nice detail versus, you know, Megamind and his robot here. Yeah, this is not, you know, $6 to $7 worth of toy. I don't know what these actually went for at the time, but I remember it being somewhere between $6 and $7. We'll be generous. We'll say $5. Is this worth $5 a toy when you're getting this for free at McDonald's? Yeah, that's why the line didn't work out. But it's a shame because they're so good. And in terms of small value figures, I'm reminded less of the Shrek 2 versions of value figures where, yeah, you're really getting a value toy. And actually, these remind me much more of the McFarlane Shrek figures. I mean, look at that. Titan here could totally beat up the Duloc Knights because they scale perfectly. Look at them compared with Shrek. I mean, yeah, they're the same size. These totally remind me of the McFarlane Shrek toys, which, you know, I have often said is one of the best toy lines ever made. I mean, obviously I'm going to have a Shrek bias, but I do love me some McFarlane Shrek toys. I think they're awesome. The detail on them is amazing, and even though they are also very pre-posed, like Megamind, they just have nice swivel articulation that just works. And with these guys here, you know, you're not going to get super articulation at this size, but it just works. With the bigger figures, obviously the lack of articulation is going to be a real detriment because, you know, 6-inch figures should feel like they have that Marvel Legends articulation, because Marvel Legends has been around so long and always had such nice articulation. But with these little guys, you know, you're not expecting a ton of articulation. And you know, Metro Man here, you get a lot of room to walk with the figure, position him in different flight poses. You could have the arm back, one arm forward, like he's up and away, like Superman, or both arms back, like more modern Superman, where he kind of flies like a missile, puts his hands behind his back to get more momentum. You can have his head turned, like he's really mad that Megamind's gonna do some evil stuff. So yeah, there's Metro Man, Megamind, Titan, the little brain bot, the babies, and finally, the final figure I have to complete the main set is Roxanne. Yes, they actually made Roxanne. This figure is real. I didn't know about the existence of this toy for a long time. She came packaged with Metro Man here, and it's a nice sculpt. I know the face looks a little rough on the camera here, like, oh, that's not too great, but these toys are so tiny that when you hold them in person, they look a lot better than they actually do on camera, because they're so small. The detail packed in here is just nice, and she's got a lot of articulation, more than you would think. Her legs are one piece, but it allows her legs to be at this unique posture where one's kind of cocked forward there. Besides, she's wearing a skirt, so if they put articulation in there, it would look a little weird. So she just bends once there. Her arm can go around, and then her reporting arm can go out. She's like, "Hello, Metro Man. Did you kick Megamind's butt today?" And he's like, "No, but I'm going to," right? But yeah, it's a nice figure. I'm just really happy this exists at all, because often with animated movies, the female characters are very overlooked. But Roxanne here has a nice toy, and pair together with Megamind on your shelf, because I think they may be one of the most underrated couples in Dreamworks. They definitely have that Shrek and Fiona energy. The accidentally in love angle is strong with them. The reporter and the mastermind supervillain. But Megamind, if you look at it strictly as a rom-com, is an amazing film. The chemistry and drama between him and Roxanne is so real. You can feel it off of the screen. He wants to change, but the world doesn't give him a chance until finally he defies the destiny that was assigned to him and gives in to his own destiny and becomes the hero he wanted to be. Even without the amazing superpowers of, Metro Man or Titan, he still finds a way to become the superhero he always wanted to be. So, yeah, that's enough pontificating about Megamind. These are the 3-inch figures. I think they're really cool. I hunted for them for a long time, and I am so happy now to have them in the collection. Maybe someday I'll be able to get those bigger figures and we'll cover them on the channel. But for now, here is the full set of minis. And I should say full set with an asterisk above that, because there is one piece I haven't talked about yet, and that brings us back to the mech suit. Yes, remember the McDonald's one? Well, they actually made a larger sized, fully articulated walking mech suit toy. This was a deluxe release meant for the minifigures. It didn't come with a Megamind figure. It actually came with a cardboard cutout of the Megamind figure. The idea was you bought this one from the 2-pack and you stuck him in it. And I do not have this mech suit. It's one of the toughest items to get in the Megamind collection. It's really rare and expensive, like all of these toys. I just say rare and expensive over and over again in this video because, yeah, these toys are tough to get. But with persistence, you can get them. I found these all at a great price on eBay. Good deals are still out there. You just have to look. And I think if you do look, it's worth it because I think they're really cool toys. I like them a lot. And I'm so happy I got to share these cool action figures with you guys today. Wow, now that's what I would say, some super toys right there. What did you guys think of the Megamind figures? I think they're pretty impressive. But before we go, I do want to cover some of the extra stuff you can collect for Megamind. Now for the ToyQuest line, of course we have the 3-inch figures and the 6-inch figures, but there was also a 14-inch figure of Minion called the super-sized, super ultimate Minion or something like that. This one had all of the bells and whistles you would expect for a modern action figure, actual full articulation. I wish we could have seen something like this at the 6-inch scale, but I guess it just wasn't possible at the time. But yeah, this guy is actually one of the easier figures to get in the Megamind line. The trouble really comes with his dome. It was actual liquid with a rubber fish inside of it, so often when I see these, the water has either dried up or molted. They can be quite nasty inside, so keep that in mind as a collector. We also got some nice Megamind statues. These were aimed at the adult collector market, and we got Megamind and we got Metro Man, of course. Again, these are also some of the easier to get Megamind items, so if you want just Megamind on your shelf, you can get these statues. Although do keep in mind they look very fragile, and they're not toys. You're not going to get any of the playability that these would offer. And then if you're outside of the United States, perhaps in part of the United Kingdom, then you would have had a shot at these guys, the Megamind PVC figures, which I can't even say with a straight face because, man, these are so goofy looking. Wow. I'm used to the Shrek PVC figures that were not released in the US, and those are always amazing. They have the most phenomenal sculpts ever. Megamind, on the other hand, just he's doing this. He's so goofy. And look at that Minion. Oh my god. I love the design of these guys. They're hysterical, but also uber rare. I've never even seen one of these for sale online. And then we also got Megamind plush. I should say a Megamind plush. It was called Big Heads. And this guy was part of a Dreamworks compilation line, so there were other Dreamworks characters. For actual Megamind plush, here they are. They didn't release. Those are just prototypes. You can tell, look at Metro Man's belt, how the two are different. These are photos of prototype samples, and from what I can gather, these toys were not released. Either they didn't release, or they're the rarest plush ever made, and I've just never seen one of them torn up. But I'm like 99% sure these toys are prototypes unproduced. And speaking of prototypes, check out these. These are the prototype images of the ToyQuest Megamind action figures that was released to the press all the way back in 2010. And yeah, they look wildly different from what we were given. These are very early prototype mock-ups. They have no articulation. They all look so different. Look at Metro Man, how happy he is. Look at Roxanne, the level of detail they are. Very interesting. I know prototypes often don't align with the final product, but these are on another level, man. I wonder if some ex-ToyQuest employee maybe kept these prototypes. I would love to see them in the present day, but very interesting. Also, one of these prototype images is of a Megamind figure that is posed differently than the one we got. So there's the version we did get with its prototype, and then here is the one that doesn't have a corresponding final figure. So it seems like this one went unproduced. That's it. That's all we have for Megamind. I am surprised that this film had some of the least common merchandise of any of the Dreamworks movies. Like, I've had difficulty with the Shark Tale toys, but at least with the Shark Tale toys, I knew they were out there. With Megamind, I didn't even know a lot of this product existed until I researched it. And then some of this stuff, again, I've looked for years online and have found nothing. And it's a superhero movie. Like, superhero movies exist to make toys. The lack of Megamind products, in my mind, tells me that Megamind failed big time. I know it didn't do amazing at the box office, but these movies are really made as vehicles to sell toys. Dreamworks makes Shrek to sell Shrek, and then I buy Shrek because I love Shrek. The fact Megamind didn't have anything to buy, mostly kids' meal promotions, is a huge red flag that this movie failed. But here's a silver lining. Megamind himself and the movie had a redemption arc. Not only did Megamind become a good guy, but Megamind, the movie, became the good guy because it garnered a large adult following on the internet over the years. Now I would say the movie is truly a cult classic, even to the point where Dreamworks themselves have brought back Megamind, well, mostly for direct-to-streaming movies and TV shows that are decidedly low budget. But you know what? It's Megamind, it's something, and it shows that the people on top know there is demand for this character. So if we ever get anything Megamind in the future, I don't need any more streaming shows or movies. I don't watch that stuff. I just stick to the classics. But what I would love are some Megamind modern action figures in the style of Marvel Legends. I know they would be popular across the board with not only cartoon fans like you and I, but also mainstream superhero collectors. People that collect Marvel Legends would love to add a Megamind and a Metro Man to their collection. I think they'd be very popular. So hopefully the story on Megamind toys changes for the good. Again, just like Megamind himself. But for now, we're going to have to stick with the ones we got. As elusive and rare as they are, I think they're very cool and interesting figures, and I am infinitely happier for adding them in my collection, and more importantly than that, sharing them with you guys, because that's why I get this stuff, because I want to showcase and share them with you all. So, in conclusion, let me know in the comments what your Megamind story is. Did you see this movie in the theaters back in the day? I actually didn't. I discovered it in my older years as an adult. I've appreciated it. But let me know if you had any of the Megamind toys growing up, whether it was the McDonald's ones or these ToyQuest action figures. I would love to hear from you guys. But that's all I got for today. Thanks for watching, and as always, have a happily ever after. Megamind, what is this about? Roxanne, you see, my reign of evil was so evil that it inspired lots of evil people to do evil things. And I thought, what better way to combat the evil than forming my own league of not evil? Brilliant idea, sir. Thank you, Minion. Thank you. It will be a league of good that will dish out justice. A Justice League. This has never been done before. Next up, I have super strength, I can fly, and I'm completely invincible. See, Roxanne, this is the type of top-tier talent we need in this newfangled Justice League. And your name is John Hancock. I should also mention I have a horrible, crippling drinking addiction. Minion, pass me the dehydration gun. I am the Lord of the Snack Falcon. I control the Snack Falcon, and it bends to my every will. I must see this Snack Falcon. So, it's a store. What do they sell? Slushies. Dang it. Minion, we will assemble our Justice League, and then we will go get slushies. Well, dang it. It was worth a shot, Lovebug. Thanks for taking me. So, might I recommend dehydrating them? No. They're too dang adorable. Besides, I need a slushie later. Next up, we're the best. Unstoppable and fierce. And ready to pass the test. So, these agents are highly qualified. They worked for the Easter Bunny. 8 minions, stop right there. You mean Russell Brand? I don't associate myself with Russell Brand. Not after that terrible remake of Arthur. I'll never forgive him. Dehydrate them. There is no Easter Bunny, there is no Queen of England, and there is no Russell Brand.
I have invented a super suction plunger launcher, magnetic pulse radar, shrinkway, flying car, freezeway, laser tag, laser lightsaber, supercomputing robots, an actual AI dog, but it's AI, so I guess it isn't actual, a 6-slice toaster that fits 6 slices, glasses-free virtual reality.
Oh my god, please stop talking. Okay, so, do you, have any powers?
I'm the smartest mouse in the world. I can build anything.
Yeah, but, do you have X-ray vision, super strength, anything?
Do you have any superpowers?
Well, I'm the smartest man in the world. I've built X-rays, I've built freezeways, I've built AI, robotic dogs, I've built death rays, I've built everything. Hey, Gadget, have you ever heard of dehydration technology? Well, Minion, I guess we won't have anyone in our Justice League except you, me, and all of these cool dehydrated cubes to decorate the base with. So I am very flattered, but turning all of these heroes into dehydrated cubes, wouldn't that necessarily be evil? I suppose so. Should I turn them back? What do you advise? Minion, you're my one and only member of the Justice League. You gotta advise me here. Well, so I would recommend turning all of the heroes back, except for one, because one of these cubes would make for a pretty cool prop for your upcoming Loki cosplay. That's right, Comic-Con, here I come. Minion, I love you. I love you too, evil, dad, creator, technically my god. A huge special thanks to my Super Swampy supporters, Pizza Topping, Pladley, Borusta, Don Tizzle, Love Monster Fanatic, Telephone Wire, Jip, Binks, Tucker Time, The Luke Rosati, SMO3, Griffin Newman, Shotgun Justice, Sailor Laws, Bonzario, Jamie, The Layered Ogre, and Antonio Bocina. If you'd like to support the channel, consider becoming a YouTube member for 99 cents a month. But a huge special thanks to you for watching the video all the way until the end.